House presents Flood and Fury, Ecological Devastation in the Western Ghats by Viju B. Read by Ashish Bhandari. Introduction. He rolled the boulder to the hilltop, then rolled it down and laughed. Narrator at Rairanellore Hills. One of the many seers who lived and meditated in the Western Ghats, the mad seer Naranathubrantan, who lived in the Rairanellore Hills in Palakkad, seems to symbolize what is happening in the Western Ghats today. Unlike the Greek king Sisyphus, who was cursed to roll stones up the hills as an eternal punishment, Naranathubrantan used to roll huge boulders up the hill for no particular reason, and then let them roll down, clapping and laughing as he watched them go. It was seen as a symbolic act, man's mundane existence and the futility of his greed and selfish acts. In August 2018, huge boulders came rolling down as landslides, destroying many regions along the Western Ghats in the hill towns of Kerala and Karnataka. The landslides and floods took lives of 499 people, and over 14 lakhs were evacuated in these two states. More than 2.16 lakh houses were damaged, affecting over 7 lakh people. Many residents became homeless as their lands disappeared. All that remained were deep gorges. Why have these mountains turned hostile? Our forefathers used to call these mountain ranges Sahyadri, which means benevolent mountains, and it seemed so apt. The Britishers, who later began to precisely map their bountiful resources, mainly for commercial reasons, named them the Western Ghats rather artlessly. The word Ghats probably came from the Hindi word Ghat, which means pyre, or from the Sanskrit word Ghat, which means flight of steps leading to the river, or perhaps from its numerous Dravidian roots, from Gatta, Kannada, Kattu, Tamil, or Katta, Telugu, which mean an embankment or dam. But none of these words could encompass the broad meaning that Sahyadri is endowed with. It is hard to imagine that the Western Ghats came into existence as a gigantic fault or escarpment on the Deccan Plateau. Beginning with a crack in the Earth's crust that appeared around 150 million years ago. Fissures were formed as the Great Plate of the Indian Peninsula moved and arched upwards, generating massive heat, with huge mounds of basaltic magma bursting out of the outermost shell of the Earth's surface, the lithosphere. That was the foundation of the Western Ghats, a long ridge extending up to 1,600 kilometers. For thousands of years, these mountains were devoid of any vegetation and remained barren, but slowly moisture appeared on this bare skeleton as the first drops of rain fell on it. The barren rocks absorbed them gladly, and on their nascent skin the first tiny forms of life originated. What happened over the last 100 million years is nothing short of an ecological miracle. As the earth cooled, streams, rivers, estuaries, plants, forests, and wildlife evolved here. These dense, forested mountains are older than the Himalayas, and definitely older than the Indian civilization. They can be seen as a dynamic living organism, its flesh and blood being forests and rivers. When we blast a quarry or a mine in the Western Ghats, we destroy a mountain that is easily 100 million years old. For human beings, the later inhabitants and settlers who migrated to the valleys and floodplains of the Western Ghats, these mountain ranges are not mere fault lines, but a primary life-giving source. The Sahyadri ranges are perennial water towers that sustain the lives of people in 6 states along the western coast: Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Goa, Maharashtra and Gujarat. Around 4.5 crore people depend directly on the Western Ghats for their livelihood. Around 24.5 crore people living in peninsular India receive water from rivers originating in the Western Ghats. The density of population in the region varies from 100 to 300 inhabitants per kilometre. The streams and rivers that originate in these hills fill up lakes and water reservoirs, which in turn supply water to thousands of villages, townships, municipalities and metro cities like Mumbai, Bengaluru, Pune and Chennai. In fact, about a fourth of India's population would die of thirst and starvation if a disaster strikes the Western Ghats. A humble and deep recognition that we are the children of a benevolent mother called Sahyadri will change our lives forever. The southwest monsoon occurs because of the presence of the lush, green Western Ghats that block the moisture-laden winds coming from the Arabian coast, irrigating the paddy fields and farms on the Deccan plains. The Ghats thus acquired a godly status, a perennial provider of natural resources that would regenerate every year without fail. No wonder tribals venerated the mountains as their Mala Daivam, or mountain god, worshipped the obscure rocks in the forest glades and named them Kali or Durga. Buried in their rituals is a deep-rooted intuitive faith and respect for the mountains and forests that sustained them. In recognition of their ecological value, 39 sites in the Western Ghats were added to the World Heritage List by UNESCO in 2012. Of these, 20 are in Kerala, 10 in Karnataka, 5 in Tamil Nadu and 4 in Maharashtra. The UNESCO stated that at least 325 globally threatened species on the IUCN's International Union for Conservation of Nature's Red List are in the Western Ghats. Of the total 325 globally threatened species in the Western Ghats, 129 are classified vulnerable, 145 are endangered, and 51 are critically endangered, the UNESCO report said. The Western Ghats region is home to the largest number of Asian elephants, tigers, dholes, and Indian bison. According to the Tiger Census 2014, the Western Ghats landscape, comprising Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Goa, has 776 tigers, more than the Shivalik Gangetic region, 488 tigers, and the Central Indian landscape, 688 tigers. A unique natural universe with diverse species, perhaps seen elsewhere only in the Amazon rainforests, evolved in the Western Ghats. The region is a fertile ground for 4,000 species of flowering plants, 645 species of evergreen trees, 120 species of mammals, 508 species of birds, 330 species of butterflies, 156 species of reptiles, 290 species of fish, and 13 species of amphibians. As many as 58 major rivers originate in the Western Ghats, which include Godavari, Kaveri, and Krishna. It is only natural that over time beautiful civilizations blossomed along the riverbanks in the Western Ghats, where many languages, cultures, and arts evolved and flourished. Our seers, who were seekers of wisdom, undertook spiritual journeys to these mountains, right from the sage Agastya, Adi Shankara and Ayappa, to later bhakti movement poets like Tukaram and social reformers like Sri Narayana Guru. In the supreme glory and ecstasy that nature invoked in them, in the music of the birds, in the subtle whisper of forest streams, and in the vast, majestic silence that only mountains could provide, they found enlightenment. The numerous Hindu, Buddhist and Jain hill shrines that came up in these mountains, be it Mookambika, Talakaveri, Trimbakeshwar, Mahabaleshwar, Ajanta Ellora, Tirunelli and Sabarimala, to name a few, gave spiritual succor to the world-weary pilgrim in search of peace and tranquility. But somewhere along the way, we lost the spiritual track as mountains were gouged out.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?